Yo, what's up guys, Alf here, and today I'm going to be doing a full in-depth deck breakdown of a deck that I've recently used to hit rank 6 with on the arena ladder. And now unfortunately I did tank my rank a little bit trying out some brews that didn't end up working out, so I've had a little bit further to climb on the ladder than usual. But as you can see from the Arena Pro Tracker screenshot here, I'm currently 45 and 6 with the deck, so it's been performing really well for me. And now before I get into it, there's going to be an MTG zone link down in the description. If you click on that, I'll have the full deck list there that you can import into Arena if you want to try the deck out for yourself. But anyway, with that all out of the way, this is my Jund Trapfinder combo deck in Historic. Now I recently covered a Rakdos version of the Trapfinder combo deck that I used to get rank 1 with on the arena ladder, and with the recent release of the Alchemy Brothers War set and Explorer Anthology 2, the deck gets a ton of great new additions that make it even more consistent and even more powerful. So this is a combo deck that revolves around Trapfinder, Ominous Traveller and Ashnod's Altar. So for those of you who know how the combo work, I'm going to leave a timestamp in the description so you can skip the combo explanation and just go to the explanation for the new cards and the rest of the deck. But for those of you who don't know how the combo works, like I said, it revolves around Trapfinder, Ominous Traveller and Ashnod's Altar. So Ominous Traveller is the main card in the deck, 2 mana 1/1, and when it enters the battlefield you draft a card from its spellbook. So its spellbook is 15 different creatures, so when this enters the battlefield you get given 3 of those 15 at random, and you get to pick one of them to put in your hand. Then when you cast a spellbook creature, the Ominous Traveller returns to your hand, so you can just keep casting it over and over again as kind of like a slow value engine. Now in a format as fast as Historic, that's not very powerful, it's quite a slow card in general, but if you can perpetually reduce the cost of it, that's when things start to get a bit broken, and that's where Goblin Trapfinder comes in. So this is a 1 mana 1/1, and when it dies you seek a creature card with mana value 3 or less. The card perpetually gains haste, costs 2 less to cast, and sack it at the beginning of the end step. So if we have a look at the deck, the only 2 creatures in the deck are Trapfinder and Ominous Traveller. So if we can get a Trapfinder and have it die, either by sacrificing it to the Ashnod's Altar or having it block in combat, we either hit the Ominous Traveller, which is what we're trying to set up, that's perfect, or we hit another Trapfinder, which isn't the end of the world, because especially if we have Ashnod's Altar, we can then just sacrifice the Trapfinder again to get another look at the Traveller. Even if we don't have the Ashnod's Altar, the copy that we get from seeking sacrifices itself at the beginning of the end step anyway, so it will just sacrifice itself and we'll get another look at the Traveller. So once we have Trapfinder, it's actually pretty easy to find a 0 mana Traveller. And then the final part of the combo is Ashnod's Altar. So this is how we go infinite. So Ashnod's Altar, 3 mana artifact, sacrifice a creature to add 2 colourless mana. So the important thing to note here is that Ominous Traveller says you may spend mana as though you're a mana of any colour to cast this spell about the spellbook creatures, which means that you can cast the spellbook creatures with colourless mana. So if we have a 0 mana Traveller from the Trapfinder and an Ashnod's Altar, Traveller costs 0 mana, so we can just cast it for free, get a creature from the spellbook, cast the creature from the spellbook, which bounces Ominous Traveller back to your hand, and then we can sacrifice the creature that we cast from the spellbook to the Ashnod's Altar to produce more mana to allow us to continue casting creatures from the spellbook. So if we get a 1 mana creature from the spellbook, we go positive a mana because we 0 mana for Ominous Traveller, 1 mana for the spellbook creature, and then we can sacrifice the spellbook creature to Ashnod's Altar to produce 2 mana, then we're up a mana. So obviously 1 mana creatures gain you a mana, 2 mana creatures are mana neutral, 3 mana creatures cost you a mana. So the idea when we're looping here is you want to try and pick the 1 mana creatures as often as possible to try and go positive on mana, because what you want to do is just keep looping Ominous Traveller, keep casting spellbook cards, sacrificing them to the Ashnod's Altar until you're mana positive. Now there's one card in particular that's very helpful at helping you not brick and making sure that you continuously go positive on mana, and that is, if I can find it here, Headless Rider. So this is a 3 mana 3/1, and when Headless Rider or another non-token zombie you control dies, you get a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So this is really powerful because if we can get a Headless Rider into play, have it survive, and then cast other zombies, because there are a bunch of other zombies in the spellbook, then every zombie gets you an additional 2 mana. So if we have a Headless Rider, for example, and then we get a Blade Stitch Scab, for example, we play the Blade Stitch Scab for 2 mana, and then if we sacrifice the Blade Stitch Scab to the Ashnod's Altar, not only do we get 2 mana from the Ashnod's Altar, but Headless Rider also produces a 2/2 token, which we can also sacrifice for an additional 2 mana. So having a Headless Rider in play and having it survive basically ensures that you don't brick on mana. So once you're mana positive, your goal then is to keep looping the Ominous Traveller until you find the Dominating Vampire here. This is the other most important card from it. So when this enters the battlefield, you gain control of target creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of vampires you control until end of turn. Untap that creature, it gains haste. So once we have enough mana and we're not worried about bricking anymore, mainly off the back of Headless Rider, We then want to get Dominating Vampires to steal all of the opponent's blockers, because obviously the opponent could have blockers that stop you attacking. So play the Dominating Vampire, steal your opponent's creatures, and then we can sacrifice the opponent's creatures to the Ashnod's Altar. And then once the opponent's creatures are all out of the way, the next most important card you want to be looking for is Champion of the Perished. So this is a 1-mana 1/1, and whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. So having this, especially alongside Headless Rider, allows you to just build up a really, really big Champion of the Perished. So once you've stolen all of your opponent's creatures to clear the way to attack, you want to make a really, really big Champion of the Perished. And then Dominating Vampire can also target your own creatures to give them haste. So you clear the way, steal your opponent's creatures, play the Dominating Vampire, give your big Champion of the Perished haste, and then just attack for lethally in one go. So that's how the combo works. It involves a lot of clicking. A few quick tips for you who are newer to the deck. First of all, under options and gameplay, you want to make sure that you have auto-order triggered abilities ticked. So options, gameplay, make sure you have this ticked because it will save a lot of time. You also want to use the space bar as well to confirm paying with the Ashnod's Altar. That's really, really important as well. And in general, just make sure that you're playing quickly. Make sure you're thinking of what spellbook creature you want to get before the spellbook comes up to save time, because even if you're playing quickly on Arena, there is a 5-minute hard limit on each turn, so you will time out eventually, and especially if the opponent has a lot of blockers in play and you need to get multiple Dominating Vampires, it's important that you play quickly, but you'll get it over time. As you play with the deck more, you'll get more efficient with it. So that's how the combo works. In terms of the rest of the deck, new cards that we're getting, the biggest difference here is that we're obviously splashing green, and that's for a number of reasons. First of all, we get access to Assassin's Trophy, which is really, really huge, because I think the biggest weakness of the Rakdos builds is that they are very soft to enchantment hate pieces. You have single target removal like Fatal Push, Claim the Firstborn in the other builds, so creature hate pieces like Archon of Emeria or Anointed Peacekeeper aren't really much of an issue. You also have decent access to artifact removal and Kolaghan's Commander, Braid, Brotherhood's End, stuff like that. So artifact hate pieces like Damping Sphere weren't really a problem, but enchantment hate pieces like Rule of Law, Curse of Shaken Faith, Roiling Vortex, for example, the only real way you had of dealing with them, which all shut up your combo, is to play Diabolic Intent, tutoring your one-off Feed the Swarm out the sideboard, which is incredibly slow. And, if you don't have a Diabolic Intent, you're kind of screwed. Whereas having green for Assassin's Trophy is really huge, because this acts as an out to any hate piece. It kills enchantments. It also kills Khan the Great Creator, which is another card that you struggle to beat a lot of the times, whilst also just acting as generic removal for creatures or anything you need. So having access to Assassin's Trophy basically means that the main weakness is now basically gone. You have an out to enchantments in the main deck. You have it as a 4-of, so you're likely to find it. And you also have a lot of ways to dig for it as well. So having Trophy basically means that the previous biggest weakness of the deck is no longer really an issue. But that's not the only reason we're splashing green. We also have 2 new cards from the latest Alchemy set. One of them is Assemble the Team. So this is a new card, 2 mana in Golgari colours. Search the top third of your library rounded up for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle. So looking at your top third is a lot of cards, especially because the whole deck is basically 4-of. So this is basically taking the place of Diabolic Intent. Now, you're not always obviously guaranteed to find it, but you are very likely, more often than not, you'll be able to find the card you need. And even if you can't find the exact card you need, you can often just get something else that helps you out in that situation anyway. So most of the time you'll be looking for Trapfinder off this, but you could be looking for Altar if you already have the Trapfinder. And, even if you don't find the card you need, like I said, you can find an Assassin's Trophy for an out to stuff. You can find Fable of the Mirror Breaker or Iteration if you need more card advantage. So Assemble the Team, such a nice upgrade to the deck. Now, in terms of Diabolic Intent, I do think that it worked in the previous builds. I did like the sacrifice sub-theme in a way, but I felt like, having to run stuff like Phyrexian Tower, Claim the Firstborn, Diabolic Intent with such a low creature count did give the deck some amount of inconsistency, in situations where you have like Trapfinder and Diabolic Intent and the opponent thought seizes away your Trapfinder, or you have Claim the Firstborn but your only sacrifice outlet is Ashnod's Altar and you can't use it as removal before turn 4 because of that. It does add this layer of inconsistency to the deck. So having Assemble the Team kind of replaced Diabolic Intent, where you don't need to have a sacrifice, like a creature to sacrifice in order to tutor something, is really huge. And it's also really consistent because you can play it on turn 2 every game, whereas the only way that you could play Diabolic Intent on turn 2 is if you had the nut draw with turn 1 Trapfinder into turn 2 intent. So I'm a really big fan of Assemble the Team over Diabolic Intent. I also quite like removing that sacrifice element from the deck in general because it removes that inconsistency that I was talking about. Now, the other new card is Perilous Iteration. So this is a card that I really undervalued the first time I read it. 2 mana sorcery, seek a card with mana value 2 or less, and a card with mana value 3 or greater into your hand, and then discard those cards at the beginning of your next turn's end step. So, the really nice thing about this is it's guaranteed to find either Fable of the Mirror Breaker or Ashnod's Altar, both of which are really powerful cards. Obviously, Ashnod's Altar is part of your combo, so being able to consistently to this up off the iteration is nice. Fable of the Mirror Breaker is one of the best cards in the deck in general anyway, so guaranteeing one of these two is really nice as well. And then, you know, we have a lot of really nice cards that cost 2 or less as well. If you get lucky, you can potentially hit Ashnod's Altar and Trapfinder off this, which is insane. The other really nice thing about this is that it can also find lands, so if you don't have a good play on turn 3, this basically guarantees that you will. You know, you play this on turn 2, and you either hit Fable or Ashnod's Altar to be able to cast the following turn. You have just a below 50% chance of finding a land as well. So playing this on turn 2 is really good thing to do in most situations, because a lot of the time you will hit like Ashnod's Altar and a land, and then, you know, for 2 mana you've hit one of your combo pieces and you've hit a land to play the following turn as well. And then as you get more mana later in the game, you can hit stuff like Fable of the Mirror Breaker and like an Assemble the Team, for example. So Perilous Iteration, really good at finding the Ashnod's Altar for the combo, really good at finding the Fable of the Mirror Breaker as just a generically powerful card, helps you hit land drops as well. So this as just a card advantage card is really, really big. Now, I did try really hard to make builds work that only had Ashnod's Altar as the target. You know, having this as a guaranteed way to find one of your 2 combo pieces is really huge, but I just felt like that deck was too flimsy without Fable of the Mirror Breaker. You know, builds I was trying basically just replace Fable with stuff like Maze Mind Tome or additional discard spells, and without having any board presence, without having any card filtering, or any plan B whatsoever, the deck just felt super one-dimensional and kind of frail as well. You know, having no way to actually commit to the board just felt kind of risky. So I feel like Fable of the Mirror Breaker is good, and even though Iteration doesn't always find you the Ashnod's Altar, you know, finding Fable is actually really good in a lot of situations as well. So this is really consistent at giving us card advantage and helping us to find our really powerful payoff cards as well, which is really huge. And then the rest of the deck, we've got decent interaction. You know, the big strength of the Trapfinder combo in general is the combo package is so lean that you can afford to run a lot of interaction as well. So we've got 4 copies of Fatal Push, best and most, you know, efficient creature removal in the format, alongside Assassin's Trophy that gives us 8 removal spells for creatures in the main deck, which is really nice. Then we've got 4 copies of Inquisition of Kozilek. You know, you get to run discard spells, which is really good against the control and combo decks, and also just good against most decks in general, because it allows you to clear the way to combo off. You know, the biggest vulnerability of this combo is instant speed creature removal and instant speed artifact removal, so being able to use Inquisition to get rid of the opponent's Fatal Push to allow you to combo off is good against the creature decks as well, which is really nice. The reason I'm running Inquisition over Thoughtseize is because one of the downsides of running green in this deck is the mana base is so much more painful now. We're having to run 12 Shocklands and Mana Confluence, so the life loss really does add up, so I don't think you can really afford to be running Thoughtseize in the main deck, which is a little bit annoying specifically against Khan the Great Creature and Goblin Charbelcher, but for the most part, Inquisition hits most of the stuff that you want to hit. Against the aggro decks, you just want to take their early stuff to slow them down. Against the interactive decks, you just want to take their instant speed interactions to help you combo off, so Inquisition in the main has been fine. I don't think you can get away with Thoughtseize because you'll just lose to aggro too often because of the life loss, which is a big deal. And then, like I said, we've also got 4 copies of Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Now, like I said, I did try and run builds without this so that we always find Ashnod's Altar off the iteration, but Fable just does so much in the deck. You know, the 2/2 gives you board presence, the treasures allow you to, you know, ramp, which is especially important, you know, at setting up Ashnod's Altar and Trapfinder in the same turn, because the thing is with this combo, you need to have extra mana when you're comboing off. You know, you ideally want to have 3 or more spare mana when you start comboing, because then your chances of bricking are a lot lower. So having treasures allows you to go Ashnod's Altar, Trapfinder in the same turn, so you don't expose either combo piece to interaction, which is really nice. Then the filtering is really important as well, because it allows you to ditch dead cards in your hand, it allows you to dig for your combo pieces, and then Reflection of Kiki-Jiki just gives you kind of like a plan B, a way to win when you don't have the Traveller combo, and you can also go infinite with 2 copies of Reflection of Kiki-Jiki and Ashnod's Altar, because you can copy Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, targeting another reflection to make a copy, and then you can sacrifice one of the copies to Ashnod's Altar, then activate it twice again. So if you have 2 reflections in Ashnod's Altar, you can make infinite tokens during the opponent's end step, which is another way to win. But even outside of that, copying Trapfinder is really nice to help you find the Traveller. Copying Traveller gives you more spellbook options. Copying Dominating Vampire and Headless Rider is really nice with reflection as well. So Fable is really important in the deck because it gives you board presence, card filtering, and kind of a plan B, and without those in the deck, if you replaced it with something like a Maze Mind Tome, I just felt like the deck was too frail in general. Then we also get Gigantha as the companion, basically just a free card in the deck, but like I said, we are kind of light on plan B stuff in the deck, so having access to Gigantha is just a way to beat the opponent down is really huge. One other thing to note with Gigantha is the activated ability where you add 1 mana of every colour can be used to cast the spellbook cards. So if you have a turn where you're trying to combo off, you can tap the Gigantha just to produce a ton of extra mana, which drastically reduces your chances of bricking. You can also use it in one big combo turn, tap it to play green and black for assemble the team to find your lost combo piece and then go off the same turn with the extra mana. So Gigantha Nice is a plan B, and the mana can help you combo off as well. Then in terms of the mana base, 24 lands has felt like a good amount overall. We do have a lot of ways to dig for lands in the early game, but you really don't want to be missing lands in the early game at all. Basically all dual lands here, because we do have a lot of mana constraints in this deck. We need red and black on turn 1. We need green, black and red, green on turn 2. You do often want to cast Iteration and assemble the team in the same turn. And very importantly as well, you want to have access to multiple lots of red mana, because once you have Ashnod's Altering Goblin Trapfinder, sometimes you're going to hit Trapfinders multiple times in a row, So if you only have 2, if you're running a lot of pathways and you only had like 2 red mana and you go Trapfinder, sack it, and then hit another Trapfinder, because you don't have access to that 3rd red mana, that can stop you comboing off, which can often lose you the game. So I think having actual dual lands is really important here. Unfortunately, we don't have the red-black slow lands, so we do have to play a few pathways, but the rest of the mana base is just all dual lands to consistently have Iteration and assemble the team on turn 2, both of which are really important to have, and to consistently have multiple lots of red mana to maximise your chances of being able to combo off. Mana Confluence, new addition from Explorer Anthology, is painful. That's one of the main reasons I'm not running Thoughtseize in the main deck, like I said, but it is very important to ensure that we have the right colours of mana on time, because you do really want to be able to cast Assemble Iteration on turn 2 after a Fatal Push or Inquisition or Trapfinder on turn 1. So I've been really impressed with the consistency in the mana base, but it is quite painful. Then onto the sideboard, we've got 3 copies of Soul Guide Lantern here. This is for Graveyard Hate. I prefer this to Unlicensed Hearse. First of all, because I did want to run a fairly high amount of this. I am kind of scared of Phoenix. I feel like that can be a tough matchup. Grease Fan can also be quite difficult in certain situations, so I wanted to run 3 copies, and Lantern is nice because it's not bad to draw multiples because you can always cycle it away, and I prefer Lantern. You could potentially run 1 Hearse, but because we're running Perilous Iteration, which does give you a time limit on the amount, how long you have to cast your cards, I prefer running the cheaper cards in general because it maximises your chance of being able to play it off Iteration before you have to discard it, which is really nice. And just in general, being able to cycle this away means that it's not bad to draw multiples. I got one of Croxa here, which might look a bit weird because it does interfere with your Trapfinder hits, but this is here for a couple of reasons. First of all, I actually like this against control quite a lot, because if you get this against control, it will have haste, so you play it, it sacrifices itself. It's very easy to fill your graveyard in this deck, so you can just escape it, make the opponent discard a card, and then it has haste, so you can attack with it immediately, make the opponent discard another card, get in for 6, so very strong against control. The other main reason I have this in the deck is because it gives the deck more insulation against extraction effects. Cards like Unmoored Ego and Necromentia, while I don't think they're particularly good cards in general, this version of the deck is more vulnerable to that sort of effect because we don't have Khan, we don't have the Flesh Gorger anymore, so if this version of the deck becomes more popular and people do start running Unmoored Ego or Necromentia, it becomes a lot more difficult to win because then you have to rely on Fable or Gigantha. So having the one of Croxa basically gives you insulation from those sorts of effects as well, which is really nice. Then we've got 2 copies of Brotherhood's End. So this is predominantly here for the artifact decks, or if the opponent's playing an aggro deck that goes super wide like Elves, this is really good as well. Now this does again interfere with Perilous Iteration and forces you to not run Gigantha, but in the matchups like Affinity or Elves where we really want to find this, hitting it off Iteration is actually pretty good. And because the mana base is so dual land heavy, it's not actually too difficult to cast the double red for this on turn 3 either, so predominantly here for the artifact decks where it's just a complete blowout against them. Then we got 4 copies of Cut Down, so against the aggro decks we basically just cut Inquisition, bring the cut downs in. The reason I've gone for this over any other type of interaction is, first of all, I feel it's really important to be running 1 mana interaction because we have so many proactive plays that we want to do on turn 2, and there are a lot of decks where you need interaction on turn 1, being able to take out Esper Sentinel, Symmetry Sage, Aura's Creatures is really important, and Cut Down is really nice as 1 mana instant speed interaction that then enables you to play Assemble the Team or Iteration or Traveller on turn 2, which is really big. I did initially have Molten Impact in the deck, but like I said, it really interferes with our 2 mana plays. You really want to be able to go cut down or push on turn 1 into one of these on turn 2, so it doesn't slow down your proactive game plan. And like I said, cut down takes out most of the early interactive cards that you want to be able to kill. And then we've also got 4 copies of Thoughtseize, so again, kind of similar to cut down against the control decks where we don't need Fatal Push, we just cut the 4 push, replace them with 4 Thoughtseize, and then we have 8 discard spells post sideboard. Even though our mana base is pretty painful, we're only really going to bring this in against the slower decks like Control or Ramp or other combo decks anyway, so the life loss doesn't really matter in those sorts of matchups, and it just enables us to have, extra ways to disrupt the opponent, make way for our combo to be able to go off. So, very clean sideboarding, against aggro, just bringing the cut downs in place of Inquisition against control, bringing the Thoughtseize against Fatal Push, and then your deck's pretty well tuned in that matchup as well. So that's the deck. I've been really impressed with it. Rakdos Trapfinder was a deck that I already considered to be one of the best decks in the format, and Splashing Green for Assassin's Trophy gives you an out to the biggest weakness of that deck, which was Enchantment Hate Pieces, and Assemble the Team in Iteration, just improve your consistency of finding the combo so much without having to rely on the Sacrifice sub-theme, which I think did work, but it made the deck definitely more inconsistent. Claim the Firstborn without Village Rites is pretty slow as interaction, whereas now you got Trophy and Fatal Push, so I definitely think that this version of the deck helps to, iron out a lot of the few problems that the Rakdos Trapfinder deck did have. Next up, I've just got some gameplay so you guys can see the deck in action. I've just got 5 matches that I was playing on the ladder. If you got any questions about the deck at all, drop me a comment below, and I hope you enjoy the gameplay. Big up. Okay, sweet, here we go. Okay, so we're going first here. And yeah, this hand looks pretty decent. We've got Trapfinder, and we've got 3 cards that are very good at finding the Ashnod's Altar. Perilous Iteration has a 50% chance of finding the altar. Assemble the Team has a pretty good chance of finding it as well. Okay, so we missed our second land. We did draw Inquisition, but I'm going to go for the Perilous Iteration here because we have a just below 50% chance of finding a land off this and a 50% chance of finding altar, so... Oh, perfect. Okay, that's gas. That's like the perfect start for us then, because now we have, we can play land and Ashnod's Altar next turn. We would have to discard them at the beginning of our next end step, but thankfully we have the Blood Crypt and the Ashnod's Altar here, which is perfect. They tap out for Croc, so they don't have a discard spell, which is great. I think we'll just pitch the Traveller here. 2 mana Traveller can be pretty good against what I assume is Rakdos Midrange here, but we have so many ways to combo off here, so I'm just going to go with the Ashnod's Altar. Attack in, and now, unless they have a way to kill the altar, or they have a Fatal Push for the Traveller, we could potentially just go off with the combo next turn. Now, I'm very glad I went for Iteration over the Assemble the Team, because we did miss our 3rd land drop, so, that's the great thing about Iteration. You're just less than 50% chance to find a land, so if you're missing lands, it's pretty good, and you're 50% to find altar as well, so... I mean, we kind of hit perfect, but I think the only way we're going to brick here, since the opponent is tapped out, is if we hit... multiple Trapfinders, but we already have the Trapfinder that we drew, so even if we hit another Trapfinder here, we're guaranteed... Oh, we did, wow. We're guaranteed to find a 0 mana Ominous Traveller off this one, and we now have 7 mana as well, which is like almost impossible to brick with. You'd need to hit like 6 or 7 awful spellbooks in a row to brick. So here we're basically just trying to pick the cheaper creatures. So when you start going off with the Traveller, your priority should be 1 mana creatures, Headless Rider, or if you can steal something immediately with Dominating Vampire, that's also pretty good, because then Dominating Vampire essentially counts as a 1 mana creature. If you have multiple 2 mana creatures, you generally want to prioritize getting zombies first, so when you do hit the Headless Rider, you already have zombies in play to sacrifice. Okay, we got Dominating Vampire, so like I said, we can steal this 1 mana... Sorry, we can steal this 1/1 token from the opponent, so Dominating Vampire essentially counts as a 1 mana creature here, because we get to sacrifice the token the opponent has as well. Unfortunately, we can't get the Seasoned Pyromancer yet because we only have 1 vampire in play, so Dominating Vampire wouldn't have stolen anything else there. So, like I said, you want to prioritize getting zombies first and then vampires, so that, in the early game anyway, so that Dominating Vampire can steal more stuff. Now, we don't necessarily have to... Okay, Headless Rider, perfect. So now we're almost 0% to brick. Now we've got Headless Rider and a bunch of zombies. But yeah, you don't always need to steal the opponent's creatures either. If you can get more lethal Champion of the Perished in play than they have blockers, then that's also usually going to be good enough to win. Okay, opponent just scoops it up there. And in this matchup, the great thing about against Rakdos Midrange is you don't have to sideboard at all, because the main deck is very well set up against them. you know, you could potentially bring in more discard spells, but I feel like Fatal Push is important, especially on the draw, to be able to stabilize against their early creatures like Bloodtithe Harvester. They could also have creatures that are hate pieces like Misery Shadow, which basically just makes, you know, if they get a Misery Shadow in play before you sacrifice the Trapfinder, it will exile it so you don't get the trigger. So I feel like the main deck's pretty well set up against them. I don't think you want to bring in Thoughtseize because they do have a lot of ways to pressure your life total with like Graveyard Trespasser, Bloodtithe Harvester, stuff like that as well. So I think the main deck's pretty well set up against them. And in general, you know, you're playing a similar core of a deck that they are, you know, kind of a grindy interactive deck, but you just have this combo that you can go off out of nowhere. And, you know, even if you don't have the combo, just playing a Trapfinder on turn 1 and having it die and getting a 0-mana Traveler and then just going wide with a bunch of Spellbook creatures is also really difficult for them to beat. So overall, I feel like this matchup is definitely favoured, you know. One way they could even out in their favour is running stuff like Roiling Vortex or Curse of Shaken Faith. And now we have access to Assassin's Trophies and out to that. I feel like the matchup's definitely heavily in your favour. This hand is pretty nice. You know, we have a lot of ways to dig for the combo, a lot of ways to produce card advantage. And in general, you know, you don't really want to be mulliganing against the Thoughtseize deck in general because mulliganing and then having stuff Thoughtseize is pretty bad. Drew the Inquisition, which is nice. It gives us a turn 1 play here, so see what the opponent's got. Okay, interesting. So Angrass Rampage can obviously deal with the Ashnod's Altar. Taking Bloodtithe Harvester does slow them down a fair bit, but since their hand is pretty threat light, I'm kind of tempted to take the Seasoned Pyromancer here because that's their main way of refueling. No, we don't have an answer to Bloodtithe Harvester, so I could see taking that, but their hand overall is pretty weak at the moment, and Seasoned Pyromancer is a way they can refuel, so I'm just going to take that. Now, the Bloodtithe Harvester is a concern because that is somewhat of a clock, but I'm not too worried about it because we have Fable here as kind of board presence. Just going to run out, assemble the team here, probably looking for Goblin Trapfinder. Yeah, okay, sweet. So now we have the Trapfinder, which on its own, like I said, is a decent threat because even if it dies without having Ashnod's Altar, 0-mana Traveler is hard for them to beat. Okay, they have Duress for Fable, which is a bit annoying, but yeah, Trapfinder on its own is just a better threat. They already have the Angrass Rampage for the Altar, so getting Altar here isn't that great because it gives them a good target for the Angrass Rampage. Okay, they loot away with the... Oh, wow, okay, we just drew the Fable again, so classic Thoughtseize bug there. But yeah, Fable is obviously a good draw here, but even outside of that, they don't really have a good way to beat Trapfinder. If we just played out the Trapfinder, they're kind of incentivized to not attack into it, really. Okay, they attack. I'm just going to block here because we just want to slow them down. You know, we're probably going to be winning the long game here, so we just want to slow down their early start if possible. Okay, Inquisition's really nice here. So now we get to get rid of the Angrass Rampage. Now they don't have an out to the Ashnod's Altar, so now we have Trapfinder in play. If we ever draw Altar or like an iteration or an assemble the team to find the Altar, we can just potentially combo off here, which so pretty good position right now. And I also think they're kind of incentivized to not attack. Ah, okay, they just stomped the Trapfinder. So them killing Trapfinder is obviously not great for them, but I feel like they probably just have to go for it because they need, you know, they're not winning the long game because we have the combo, so they have to start applying pressure here. Okay, Inquisition obviously isn't the best draw, but we can just start going off with Traveler here and just putting creatures into play. Okay, I mean, we can steal the 2-2 with Dominating Vampire, but we don't have any way to sacrifice it, so I'm not sure it's better than just going for the Pit Fighter and going again. Now, you do need to be careful when you're casting Traveler for value that you don't cast it, get unlucky with the Spellbook, and then have to sacrifice it at the end step because you don't have enough mana to pay for stuff. So, in general, you should only cast the Traveler if you have 3 mana available, unless you're really desperate for an additional creature, because it's not entirely unlikely for you to have a Spellbook where the cheapest creature is 3 mana. I'm going to play this pathway on red here just in case, you know, having red mana for the Altar Trapfinder turns is very important. So here, I think I'm just going to trade the Pit Fighter with the 2-2 token just to deny them any more treasures. Definitely don't want to chump with the Geist or double block with the Reflection, because if we get to untap with Reflection, there are a lot of good Spellbook creatures that we could copy. Ooh, okay, Perilous Iteration's nice here, because if we can hit the Ashnod's Altar... Oh, perfect. Okay, I was going to say, if we can hit the Ashnod's Altar, we got a good chance of going off here. We did hit the Ashnod's Altar and the land, so now we're pretty good to combo off. You know, we've got, what's that, 6 mana, and we get to copy the Traveler here, which gives us an additional 2 mana here and another Spellbook creature. Going to take the Dominating Vampire just so that we have, you know, additional ways to steal the opponent's creatures. We can sacrifice the Geist here to take control of one of the 1/1s, because we do eventually need to clear the way. Okay, opponent just scoops it up. Nice. I keep having issues where it gets stuck on the victory screen and doesn't display the rank change for some reason. Yeah, weird. I don't know why it does that. Okay, so we're going first here. And yeah, I think this is fine. You know, we got interaction on turn 2. Typically, you don't want to use trophy early in the game because ramping your opponent on turn 2 is a little bit rough. But on the play, having Fables on turn 3 is really great here. Get to play Assemble the team. Generally, just going to be looking for Trapfinder here, I think. Okay, didn't find the Trapfinder. So instead, you know, we could go for Altar, could go for Perilous Iteration. I think I'm going to go for the Perilous Iteration because with 3 Fables in hand, I think chances of hitting an Altar off this are pretty sick. And you know, it looks like the opponent's on, I imagine it have to be Rakdos Midrange of some sort. So, going to play Fable on 3 here, hopefully dig for another land, and then we can play Perilous Iteration, which will probably hit us an Ashnod's Altar. You know, we could have just gone for the Ashnod's Altar initially, but Iteration is almost certainly going to get us an Ashnod's Altar plus something else. So, I feel like that's the better take. That's my logic for taking it anyway. Okay, so opponent takes a Fable, but, you know, we've got a 3rd in hand already, so that's not really a big issue. I think I'm happy just to keep all of these, honestly. We can just play another Fable here, which is really good against Rakdos. And then we just get to play the Blooming Marsh. And then we've got trophies here as interaction for anything the opponent might play. And at this point in the game, I'm pretty happy to use it. You know, ramping the opponent from like turn 4 onwards isn't really much of an issue against a deck like Rakdos Midrange. Okay, they do take the Perilous Iteration, which is a bit annoying, but, you know, we've got 2 Fables here. And the other nice thing is, you know, the deck also combos with Ashnod's Altar if you have 2 reflections of Kiki-Jiki as well, which is really nice. Going to pitch the Ominous Traveller here. Even though it is useful as the sort of a value card, we already have 2 reflections of Kiki-Jiki coming in, like, live in the next couple turns anyway, so I don't think we're going to be short of stuff to do with our mana, and I would rather just dig for more ways to dig for the combo, or potentially dig for an Ashnod's Altar to go infinite with a reflection of Kiki-Jiki's. Wow, okay, perfect. I mean, I doubt the opponent is going to let reflection survive. I imagine they must have instant speed interaction here, considering they've not committed much to the board, and they have Maze Mind Tome, which can dig for stuff like that. But either way, I'm going to play the Ashnod's Altar here, and then if they tap out here, we can copy stuff during our end step, but if they don't, I think I'm just going to wait for the opponent's turn. Okay, so they kept mana open, so I think I'm just going to wait for the opponent's turn here. Okay, they play Extinction Event. I think we can play around that, though, because the tokens that we create should be even mana cost. Yeah, okay, so we can make copies of the reflection here, and then during our end step, we can still just combo off. I mean, I guess the opponent could have stopped us comboing off naming even there, but then we get to keep both the reflections. So we're doing the end step here. So I'm going to use a treasure token to copy the copy, or to copy another reflection. And now we can use Ashnod's Altar to sacrifice one of the reflections. And now we have 2 mana, and now we can just copy twice. So this essentially, every loop you make 2 copies and sacrifice 1. So you basically just put infinite 2/2s in play. So I'm going to make quite a few. I don't want to make it, like, you know, just enough and then get blown out by Fatal Push. I mean, Arena's kind of giving away that the opponent doesn't have anything here, but they could just be, you know, passing the turn, going like shift past turn and then waiting during our turn. So to be safe, I'm just going to create a bunch of these. You know, it's not exactly a time intensive combo, so I'm just going to make sure that we have enough to be able to win next turn. So yeah, this is another way that you can win with Ashnod's Altar. You don't always need to do it off the Traveller, but obviously setting up 2 reflections of Kiki-Jiki and not having either of them get killed is generally more difficult to do, but, you know, sometimes games line up like this where you can just set it up. So just going to make a few more here just to guarantee that we have enough to win the following turn. You know, I don't think there's any card in red or black for 1 mana that can kill multiple creatures. So, but I just want to make sure that, you know, we have enough here. So I think I'll just make 1 more here and then just let it resolve. And then we can just attack for everything for lethal here. Sweet. So, I mean, the opponent does look like they're running more of a controlling build of Rakdos, like a slightly more controlling version of Rakdos Midrange, because they've got Extinction Event in the main deck and Maze Mind Tome, which is interesting. I think I'm just going to submit here, you know. Either way, you could potentially bring in more Thoughtseize. You know, generally I don't sideboard against Rakdos Midrange because I feel like we're pretty well set up, but I feel like I want to keep Fatal Push in. You know, you could cut push, bring in Thoughtseize, but I want to have push because They have both Misery Shadow and Kalitas. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like main decking Kalitas in a more controlling build. And they both prevent Trapfinder from seeking when it dies. So I feel like I want Fatal Push for those reasons. I don't like mulliganing against Rakdos Midrange because of Thoughtseize, but we can't keep a one-lander, so have to mulligan here. And even though this hand is a little bit weird, I'm going to keep it. I want to keep both altars so that we're more insulated against discard spells. You know, I'm pretty sure if we only had one Ashnod's altar here, the opponent would just take that with the Thoughtseize. So keeping the second one is pretty nice. Okay, they've got another Thoughtseize, so they take one of the Ashnod's altars. Okay, Fatal Push isn't really doing much here, so we'll just play the land tapped and pass the turn. Hope the opponent doesn't have another discard spell. Okay, interesting. So, do you assemble the team? I'm going to get the Ashnod's altar out here. Now, it does expose it to stuff like a Braid or Kolaghan's Command, but I don't really mind. You know, I'd rather get it into play. Oh, wow. I was going to say, and then we can assemble the team for a Trapfinder. Now, the opponent could very well have a Fatal Push here, but with an assemble the team to help us find a second. Oh, wow. They tap out, so they don't have any interaction. And I'm very glad I played that pathway earlier on red because, yeah, okay, just for this sort of situation. This is why it's very important to have lands on red in case you hit multiple Trapfinders in a row. Okay, perfect. I was worried that we'd hit the fourth one there. So now we should just almost guaranteed to win. You know, we have 7 mana, which is way more than you need. But even if we didn't draw the Trapfinder there, we could just assemble the team for it. Now, again, I'm not sure I would go off straight away because you need to have at least 3 mana to go off safely, but obviously things worked out pretty well there. Okay, so we're going first here. And yeah, I think I can keep this on the play. If I was going second, then maybe this is a little bit too slow, but you know, we've got Fable to smooth our draws out. We've got Ashnod's altar, so if we draw a Trapfinder, we can just combo off. Okay, looks like it's the mirror match, but they're not running Gigantha, which is interesting. Just going to pass the turn here, see what else they play. Okay, play a Mountain and attack. Obviously not going to kill the Trapfinder. Okay, they're the second Trapfinder. Oh, the third Trapfinder. Wow, okay. Okay, so we drew a Blooming Marsh. Just going to run out of Fable here. And then we can try and dig towards the Trapfinder off the Chapter 2, which is pretty nice. Oh, okay, so it's not the mirror match. It's probably the... it's the Revels Goblins deck. So definitely going to pitch one of the altars. I kind of want to keep everything else we've got here, though. And we definitely want to take out the Cabaretti Rebels because that is like the main card in their deck. I'm going to assemble the team here first, just looking for Trapfinder, which we find perfect, and then we can just Assassin's Trophy the Revels here. And I think I'm just going to hold back the 2/2. You know, we could attack just to get a treasure, but I think the 2/2 is more valuable just as a way to stop them attacking. You know, they could potentially put a ton of power in play if they have like 2 Runveld Horde Masters or something. And we want to have the 2/2 available for Ashnod's altar as well. You know, we can, if we draw a land, we can potentially just combo off next turn. I mean, even without a land, if we go Ashnod's altar, Trapfinder, sack it, and hit a Traveller, we can potentially go off. Okay, we did hit another land, which is perfect. So now we have 2 looks at the Traveller here. Now, it is a little bit annoying the opponent has 4 creatures in play. That's going to be, you know, we're going to need multiple Dominating Vampires. I mean, thankfully 3 of them are 1-drops. Okay, sweet. So we're essentially comboing off with 6 mana here, so we should be good, I think. Unless we get very unlucky. We've just got to make sure that we play quickly, because we do have to get 4 creatures out of the way. Okay, so just pitch one of the cards to the Shipwreck Sifters here. So again, we're looking for cheap creatures. Okay, Dominating Vampire is actually good here, because we can steal the Trapfinder, which actually gives us another look at the Traveller as well. So Dominating Vampire essentially costs us 1 mana. Oh no, sorry. It essentially nets us a mana here. And if we hit another Ominous Traveller, it nets us 3 mana, which is pretty sick. Okay, so now we essentially have 8 mana. Okay, there's the Headless Rider. So now we don't really have to worry about bricking, which is nice. So we're basically just prioritizing Dominating Vampire and Champion of the Perished now. Obviously, we'll pick zombies as well to make sure that we don't brick on the... Well, generally, you know, the Headless Rider prevents you bricking if you pick zombies, but we should also prioritize getting Champion of the Perished and Dominating Vampires wherever possible. So we got to steal another Trapfinder, and we hit a Traveller, which is really nice. Okay, there's Champion of the Perished. So now we're just trying to build up Champion of the Perished to 20 power. and trying to dominating vampire these last 2 creatures. Okay, take another Headless Rider, which is nice. Going to sacrifice the Reflection here just because we want vampires in play so that we can steal the War Chief. You know, we need 2 vampires already in play when we get that dominating vampire to steal it. Okay, there's another dominating vampire, which is nice. I'm going to sack the second Headless Rider here because I want to keep this Champion of the Perished as a win condition, and I also want to keep this dominating vampire, so if we hit another dominating vampire, we can steal the War Chief. Because we do, you know, it is not unlikely if we get unlucky not hitting dominating vampires that we could time out here. So I want to start setting up the endgame as quickly as possible. Since we already have 2 dominating vampires, you know, we could have gone for another Champion of the Perished to have multiple 20/20 creatures, but I feel like as things stand, we can just go for the Headless Rider here, which makes it quicker to get Champion of the Perished up to 20 power. So we're basically just looking for either zombies or dominating vampire at this point. We want to make sure that we have at least 2 vampires in play so that when we get another dominating vampire, we can steal the War Chief. Then we also need a 4th dominating vampire to give the Champion of the Perished haste as well. So we'll sacrifice the Archghoul here to get 2 tokens, and then we'll sacrifice one of those tokens to play the dominating vampire, steal the War Chief. And now at this point, we're just trying to buff Champion of the Perished to 20 power and give it haste off one last dominating vampire. So again, we want more zombies here so that we can buff the Champion of the Perished. Every zombie, well, we'll make Champion of the Perished get a +1/+1 counter. Then when we sack it, we get 2 more zombies, which give it +2/+2. Oh, probably should have gone for the zombie there. I'm just trying to play quickly. So yeah, we're... Okay, opponent just scoops it up. Yeah, we just go for zombies and then we hit another dominating vampire, give the thing haste, and then that's basically it. So this is definitely a matchup where we want cut down instead of the Inquisitions. Could consider Brotherhood's End, could consider Thoughtseize. You know, Thoughtseize isn't bad against Muxus, but I think in general we usually kill them before they get to Muxus, especially if we can deny them their mana. You know, if we can kill the Skirk Prospector, it stops them ramping into it. And I guess since they're running Cabaretti Revels as well, that's another card that we'd want to be able to take. But we have Assassin's Trophy as an answer to it. And, you know, it's not the fastest kill either. You know, they do need to take their turn 3 off to play it, which can often buy us enough time to set up our combo. So I think I prefer creature removal because we're more likely to lose to their fast creature starts than we are to lose to a Revels or a Muxus, because our combo is generally quicker than that sort of thing. So obviously on the draw here is going to be more difficult, but we do have extra creature removal. And like I said, the main thing I'm worried about here is that they'll go like Prospector into Battlecry Goblin into, you know, multiple Lord effects and just start attacking us for a bunch. So this sounds pretty awkward. We don't have any green mana. The only card that we can cast is Fable, and we still need to hit a 3rd land for that. This is better. You know, we actually can cast stuff here. I think I'm going to put back the Perilous Iteration because we already have the Ashnod's Altar. And then we can hopefully use Fable to dig towards a Trapfinder here. Okay, so no play on turn 1 is great to see. Just going to take out the Anarchomancer here. Thinking about it, maybe I should have used the Fatal Push there because as opposed to other builds, we don't have that many ways to trigger Revolt. So actually, yeah, thinking about it, I should have used Fatal Push there because then we can still use Cut Down to take out stuff like Goblin War Chief. Whereas here, if they play War Chief or a Chieftain, we don't have a way to kill it. So that was a misplay on my part. Wow, they missed their 3rd land. And it looks like they have a bunch of expensive cards in hand. So that's obviously really good for us. But yeah, I definitely should have used Persian Herald Cut Down for their 3 mana cards. Okay, they do hit the 3rd land. And they do have the Revels. I mean, thankfully, we already have the Assassin's Trophy, which is really nice. So I kind of like keeping everything. We've double Fatal Push. I think we can probably afford to pitch one of them. Okay, Perilous Iteration is pretty nice. So we can play the Iteration to see if we hit a land, and we already have another land to be able to play the Assassin's Trophy this turn. Okay, another Fable is pretty decent. You know, we get to slow them down a fair bit, although having said that, they are stuck on lands, which means they obviously have a hand full of non-lands. So giving them a land off Assassin's Trophy isn't ideal, but their whole deck is basically built around Cabaretti Revels, so we have to take that out. You know, if we leave them with that, they can just swarm the board so quickly and potentially combo kill us. You know, they are essentially a combo deck as well. They can basically play their whole deck if they get a good start with Revels and then just give everything haste with Battlecry Goblin or Chieftain or something. Okay, so they've got another Anarchomancer. Surprised they don't have anything else if they have a hand full of cards. Maybe they have multiple green cards? Or maybe they have multiple Revels. They only have 1 green mana. That could be it. So, going to lead on attacking with the 2/2 here. We're definitely going to kill the Anarchomancer, because it looks like their hand's quite clunky, and, you know, giving discounts to all of their creatures will allow them to swarm their hand pretty quickly. So, definitely going to push the Anarchomancer here, and then play the Fable before it gets discarded. And then we could have held on to that land to cycle to the Fable, but I want to hold up Assassin's Trophy here just in case they play something that we want to be able to kill, and we don't want to use up too many of our treasures. Now, having said that, it could have been better to hold on to the land to cycle, because we definitely want to keep hold of this Ashnod's Altar, and to be honest, we kind of want to keep hold of the Assassin's Trophy as well, but... So yeah, maybe I should have held on to that land. We'll have to see. Okay, they only play Battlecry Goblin, which I'm surprised about. Okay, there's Trapfinder, sweet. So we should just be good to win here then. You know, they could have instant speed interaction, actually. That's something I hadn't considered, but I'm pretty sure they would have killed the Reflection if they did. Maybe they have a Braid or something? Ah, they do. Okay, interesting. So that kind of makes sense. They've obviously boarded in interaction against us. Yeah, considering they hadn't really played much, they'd been holding open mana. I guess they were concerned about the combo, which does make sense. Either way, we'll attack with the 2/2s here. I want to hold back the Reflection to be able to copy the Trapfinder to hopefully find us a 0-mana Traveller here. And then, you know, normally I want to kill the Battlecry Goblin straight away, but it's not really a threat until they play other goblins. So I'm going to wait until they play another goblin, and then if they do, I'm going to trophy it. Well, to be honest, we're so far ahead on board right now that maybe we don't even need to. We'll see what they cast it. Okay, yeah, they cast the Rebels. We're definitely going to take that out. Okay, so we'll make a copy of the Trapfinder here, and then no point in using the treasures here when we can just wait until our turn. So the Reflection flips, and I think I'll attack first, you know, offer the trade, and then we'll Assassin's Trophy the Cavalry Rebels post sideboard. Post combat. So we'll trophy the Rebels here. Give the opponent another land. And then I'll just pass back. And now we can just copy Reflection with Reflection. You know, we could have put Gigantha into hand and played it. We could have played the 2-mana Traveller, but holding open this board state basically means if they have interaction, they have to hold mana back to kill Reflection, and that will slow them down developing even more. Okay, opponent just scoops it up, sure. Okay, so we're going second here. And hard. Definitely can't keep this. You know, iteration is good, but we kind of want Traveller in the deck rather than in our hand. I mean, there are some matchups where casting it for fair is fine. I mean, this hand is obviously not great either, but, you know, we can draw out of it and we have early plays. So this is not the best hand ever, but we have early interaction, which is important, so... Okay, we draw an altar, so now the hand becomes a lot better, because now if we draw a Trapfinder at any point, we can just combo off, which is pretty sick. So, get an Inquisition here, see what the opponent's up to. Oh, wow. I mean, Khan is a card... But this is the downside of running Inquisition. Against exactly Khan and Goblin UR Belcher, and occasionally against Teferi, it can be annoying, but... I think, you know, you're going to lose way more matches to aggro because of the mana base if you run Thoughtseize. And it only really comes up against Khan and UR Belcher, really. So opponent is obviously on Ponza here, or like land destruction in general. Thankfully, they're missing land drops. If they can get Khan into play... Oh, wow, they drew Haywire Might off the top as well. And they go off the Ashnod's Altar. I guess that makes sense because we can combo off. But they could have potentially Liquid Metal coated one of our lands and taken one of our lands out there. So... Thankfully, we have a backup Ashnod's Altar here. But, yeah, this matchup, I can't imagine is very good. If they have, like, infinite artifact removal, yeah, it's going to be very difficult for us to keep this altar in play to be able to combo off. Which is kind of frustrating, and they obviously run Khan as well. So, while this deck I don't think is particularly very good in general, I think it is quite good against our deck, which might make it well positioned if this deck, you know, I feel like Trapfinder in general is quite underplayed on the ladder from my experience. Okay, they found the third land, which is not great. Wow, they're running Stone Rain as well. We could potentially Assassin's Trophy our own land here. Is that a good idea? Just so we can play Gigant. Oh, wait, we can't target our own stuff. It's only opponents. Okay. I was thinking about doing that because we definitely don't want to trade for the opponent. Like, we don't want to give the opponent... Oh, wow. An untapped land isn't what we want to see. But yeah, we definitely don't want to give the opponent a land so they can play Khan. And I was thinking we can maybe Assassin's Trophy our own land so we have 5 lands to be able to play Gigantha. Wow, another Stone Rain. So now we only have red mana from Mana Confluence, which is a bit sketchy, but... Wow, another trophy. That was like the worst possible draw. So this is kind of an awkward spot, because if we can get Gigantha in play, I actually think we're in a decent spot, because then we can actually attack down Khan the turn it gets played. They can't even plus to defend it. Wow, okay. I take that back. Inquisition is the worst draw in this spot. Wow, and now they can Haywire and Might our only red land. Oh, wow. So they messed up there. They should have used the liquid metal coating before playing the Haywire Might. Now we stop them killing our land, because we can kill the Haywire Might before it can kill our land. Okay, sweet. We drew an untapped land, so now we actually have a chance in this game. I mean, with 4 Khans, it's still pretty unlikely, because the turn they play the Khan... Okay, still not found the 4th land, which is good for us. Okay, and we drew Fable, so things are looking a bit better for us now. Now we can loot away this Dead Inquisition. I definitely think we still need to keep the Assassin's Trophies round here, because we really need to be able to kill Khan. Now I'm hoping the opponent might loot away 2 of the Khans here to try and find the 4th land. And if they do, then we only have to deal with 1 Khan, and then we can just Assassin's Trophy it. So... Oh, okay, they discard a Minsk and Boo. So they've still got 2 Khans here. I'm hoping that they... Wow, okay, they should... If they're planning to plus the Khan here, they... Okay. So opponent messed up again. They should have activated the liquid metal coating before they played the Khan, because now we get an opportunity to kill the Khan before they get to activate it. But they do have a second Khan in hand, which is still an issue. I mean, thankfully we have the second Assassin's Trophy, but... And they've looted away another Khan, so we actually have, like, a shout in this game now, I think. Now, I'm going to bin the Inquisition. Oh, wow, we drew another one. Okay, that's a bit annoying. We're going to go for Perilous Iteration here. Oh, okay, that's not bad. So... I mean, I think we need to keep Assassin's Trophy open again to kill Khan. I mean, maybe it's better to just play Fable here and assume the opponent isn't going to mess up again, but I do kind of want to kill the Khan immediately, and then we can still just play the Fable next turn anyway, so... So if the opponent wants to play Khan and plus on one of our lands, they should activate the coating first now. Well, they should have done that last turn, but yeah, okay. They learnt from the mistake last turn. So now they play the Khan, they plus... Thankfully, we can still produce red off the Mana Confluence, and I guess Gigantha as well, but we really don't want to tap out the Gigantha when the opponent has a Bone Crusher Giant in play. Okay, so they kill one of our lands here. And then we'll just Assassin's Trophy the Khan. Now again, maybe it was better to Fable and then Assassin's Trophy during our turn, but I think the Trapfinder kind of incentivizes them not to attack. I don't know why it keeps wanting to tap Gigantha ahead of the Mana Confluence here. Either way, we'll just play the Fable. And I think I want to play this land tapped here, just because I want, you know, if the opponent has another piece of land destruction, I want to have access to red mana going into next turn. I mean, again, maybe it was better to play the Fable before, because then we get to Reflection copying Reflection, potential endgame faster. So yeah, maybe it was better to just, instead of playing Trapfinder, play the Fable, hold on to the Assassin's Trophy. Oh, they got Season Pyro. But yeah, hold on to the Assassin's Trophy to play during our turn, because the only way that it's better to hold... I guess, yeah, the only way it's better to play the Assassin's Trophy that turn is if they mess up their sequencing again. I think I'm going to definitely going to pitch the Inquisition. And I think with a Trapfinder already in play, I don't think they're going to have any way to stop the Trapfinder from dying. You know, they don't have any like rest in peace style effects. Ah, okay, sick. We do the Ashnod's Altar, perfect. So I think we should just be good to combo off here. You know, we get 3 looks at Trapfinder here because... Oh, sorry, we get 3 looks at Traveller here because we can tap Gigantha for red mana as well. Okay, perfect. So now we should just be good to combo off. We can tap Gigantha for mana to help us not brick as well. So we're going to do that now. And now we have access to like... What is that? 5, 6, like 10 mana. So the only concern here is that we time out before we steal their whole board, but I think we should, you know, we're definitely not going to brick. And to be honest, you know, their deck isn't really going to have a way to beat, even if we do time out, I don't think they're going to be able to beat like a board of like 20 creatures, which we should be able to build up here fairly easily, I think. Okay, opponent just scoops it up. So I managed to get game 1 there. That was a pretty stupid game. Sideboarding wise, just because of like them being stuck on 3 cards for ages, me being stuck with Inquisitions and stuff, I think I'm just going to swap out the Inquisitions for Thoughtseize here so that we can hit Karn in their hand, so that we can hit the Minsc and Boo as well. But I do think we need Fatal Push in this matchup as well, because their fastest starts go Llanowar Elves into Stone Rain on turn 2, so we need to be able to push the Llanowar Elves on turn 1, as well as, you know, being able to deal with stuff like Haywire Might, so that we can keep the Ashnod's Altar in play as well is really important. So, I mean, keeping a hand with 6 lands against Ponza might not be the worst idea, but having nothing before turn 3 going second is just way too slow. Okay, this is nice. Oh, I'd love to keep all the cards here, though. I really don't want to put a land back against Ponza, but I really want to keep Fatal Push and Thoughtseize. Assemble helps us find Trapfinder. We have Altar. I'm just going to risk it. You know, and, you know, we've got Push for turn 1 Llanowar Elves. We've got Thoughtseize to get rid of their stuff, but if we miss land drops against the land destruction deck, that might be a disaster. Oh, wow, okay. I don't know why they didn't play the Rockvale Fall on turn 1 there. So they have option to have a Braid on turn 2. I mean, either way, I think I'm going to take the card. You know, there's an argument to taking the Fable, but if this game goes long, then Con is going to be an issue. So we can play Assemble the team here, but we don't really have anything we really want to get. So I'm just going to play Trapfinder here, and then that makes our chance of being able to combo off slightly easier. I don't really want to play out Ashnod's Altar into a potential Abrade, really. So I think I'm going to lead on Perilous Iteration here, see what we hit first, and then decide what we want to do after that. Oh, wow, interesting. Okay, so we've got a second Altar, which is nice. That helps us play through the artifact removal a little bit better. Now, they do have Fable. I think I want to shock in the Overgrown Tomb so that we can Fatal Push the 2/2 token. And, you know, I'm kind of hoping that they loot away some artifact removal. Wow, they kill the Trapfinder. I mean, that feels like a bit of a waste to me. Now we have the 0 mana Traveller. I mean, I guess they just want to make use of their mana while they're having issues over there. So, I mean, this is a bit awkward because we're having to discard the Ashnod's Altar at the end of the turn. So we should play it, but it does give them something to do with the mana. But at least this way, I guess it gets through another piece of artifact removal, right? They use their Abrade on the altar there, and that's one less piece of artifact removal that they can use to kill the altar that we have in hand already. Okay, they Stone Rain us. It's a little bit annoying. I think, like, we could go altar into Traveller, but going off with Traveller with 2 mana is super risky. I think they're going to struggle, or I kind of want to bait out the Brotherhood's End. If they use that to deal with creatures that we play off Traveller, then that enables... That's another piece of artifact removal that's out of the way, so that we can hopefully keep this Ashnod's Altar in play, if that makes sense. So just going to commit 2 creatures to the board off the Traveller here and pass the turn. And we're basically just trying to bait them out into using Brotherhood's End to kill our creatures. Okay, they play the Fable. I mean, that's also really good for us because now we can just combo off, right? They don't have any instant speed artifact removal available, and we're comboing off here with 6 mana, which is almost always going to be good enough to win. Wow, okay. Dominating Vampire is sick here because we can just steal their 2/2 token. So now we have 7 mana available. So yeah, we should just be good to win here. Obviously, the opponent getting stuck on lands helped us a bit, but I mean, they're now on 4 lands, and we didn't really do much for the first few turns because we were playing around all their artifact removal anyway, so... But yeah, we're basically, again, we're looking for cheap creatures and Headless Rider in the early game. Already cleared the way, so we're basically... Oh, I guess the Champion of the Parish we've already got in play doesn't even need haste now because it's been in play for a single turn, so we're just looking for zombies and Headless Rider, basically. Okay, perfect. We've got the Headless Rider. So now we just need to build up the Champion of the Parish up to a 19/19. Don't even need to give it haste because it entered play last turn. And then we should be good to win. Oh, wow. Not getting that lucky. That kind of sucks. Okay. Sweet, we got there. Nice. Okay, so we're going second here. And, can't keep a 1-lander. I mean, this is obviously way too many lands, but going second, you know, we can draw out of it. We've got early interaction and assemble the team. You know, even if we don't draw one combo piece, we can hopefully dig for something like a Fable of the Mirror Breaker or an iteration to get some card advantage back. Okay, so opponent's on Belcher here. And they have the Char Belcher and creativity. I mean, I'm kind of tempted to take the Spikefield Hazard just to deny them a land. Because that just leaves them with 2 lands, which, you know, if they don't draw lands off the top, means that they're not going to be able to play Char Belcher for a few turns. Hopefully it'll incentivize them to hardcast the Belcher without mana to activate it, because we have Trophy to be able to kill it. I mean, we could Trophy their lands, to be honest, but they have treasure generators here already. Oh, it looks like they have... Yeah, okay, they have an offer you can't refuse, so... Had they not generated those treasures, I would be tempted to Assassin's Trophy their lands, potentially, but now they have 2 treasures. I'm not really sure that's that good. So here... I mean, I'm kind of tempted to get Trapfinder or Inquisition. Inquisition does get rid of their Prismari command or their creativity, which I think, you know, just keeping them off the... Oh, they just hardcast the Belcher. I just wanted to make sure that we can keep them off them playing and activating Char Belcher in the same turn. So now we get to get rid of the creativity, we get to Assassin's Trophy the Char Belcher, and now they're basically just back to square one, you know. I mean, they do have the Prismari command, which can loot them 2 cards, you know. They can just go like make a treasure, draw 2, discard 2 to hopefully find another Belcher. And to be honest, you know, we don't have much going on in the way of our proactive game plan. You know, we could have just gone for Trapfinder there, but they would have then had creativity. They would have had a guaranteed way to find the Char Belcher. So at least this buys us time. We can put Gigantha into hand, cast it, and then put them on like a 4-turn clock. I mean, maybe it was better to just take the Trapfinder there, and then if we draw either iteration or another assemble the team or an Ashnod's Altar, we can just go off. But this does also, you know, as long as they don't get lucky drawing another creativity or Char Belcher, we should be good. Although having said that, they do have multiple ways to dig for stuff. You know, they have March, they have, you know, creativity, they have the March that can help them dig for it as well. Okay. So opponent is just off the top of their deck here. And we do have Travellers, which can increase our clock as well, you know. Just by placing 1 Traveller in play, we're already putting them onto a 2-turn clock, which is pretty sick. Okay, Sifters is nice, because we can loot away the second Traveller here. Or, actually, no, wait, we want to get rid of the Fatal Push, because that's literally doing nothing here. So pitch the Fatal Push, get to cast another Traveller, and now they have 2 turns to find Char Belcher, basically. So yeah, thinking about it, I am quite glad that... I mean, obviously, things have panned out well for us, but I am quite glad that we ended up tutoring for the Inquisition just to get rid of the creativity. Okay, they got Ironcrag Feet. I mean, that's basically no use to them. And now they basically need to draw creativity or Charbelcher this turn to win. Because I don't think they have any way to kill Gigantha in the main deck anyway. I guess we've seen Magma Opus, but which could buy them more time and would draw them 2 cards, actually. That's kind of scary. But yeah, they'd have to draw it this turn. I mean, them tanking is probably a good sign, right? I feel like if they had Charbelcher or Creativity, they just play it immediately. Because there's nothing for 1 mana that we can have to disrupt either of those. Oh, they have a March. Okay, so if they hit Charbelcher off that, we would have... Oh, no. Actually, no, even if they hit Charbelcher, they still don't win, right? Because they don't have enough mana. Oh, they have the Ironcrag feat, right? So they could have hit Charbelcher, Ironcrag feat, and then activated at the same time. So this is a matchup where we definitely want to bring in the Thoughtseize and cut the Fatal Push, and I think we'll just run it back like that. You know, we don't really have much else that's that great. Inquisition doesn't hit the Charbelcher, but it can hit some of their lands, it can hit the Creativity, it can hit Prismari Command, which, you know, does kill the Ashnod's Altar, which is, you know, something that we need to be mindful of. So opponent's obviously on the play here, which does make things a little bit harder, but especially if they have a Leyliner's Sanctity. Okay, this is a much better hand. So we have the combo here. Going to put back an Ashnod's Altar. And I think playing Trapfinder out on turn 1 here is risky if they have Spikefield Hazard. Actually, thinking about it, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have done that. But they have to have exactly Spikefield Hazard, and that does deny them one of their lands as well. Oh, they did have it. Okay. I mean, yeah, that was just a misplay on my part, to be honest. I was just thinking, I think I just got greedy. I was like, what are the chances that they have Spikefield Hazard? But it's just not worth the risk, I don't think. Okay, we Thoughtseize here, and we can't really deny them lands because they have 2 lands, so I think we're just going to take the March here. But yeah, that was stupid. I should have just held on to the Trapfinder. I just got greedy thinking like the chances of them having the the Spikefield Hazard are pretty low, but it's just not worth the risk. You know, we're not going to win by getting in for chip damage with the Trapfinder, so I should have just held it in hand, and then, you know, we could potentially combo off this turn maybe. I mean, they've got an Offer You Can't Refuse that can counter the Ashnod's Altar, but yeah, that was really stupid of me. So I think we'll loot away... We could loot away both lands, to be honest. You know, I'd like to hit more discard spells if possible. And then we'll attack in here. And I think we'll just play another Fable. We just want to loot for another Trapfinder. Yeah, I mean, we should have just... Or I should have just held on to the Trapfinder. So I definitely misplayed this game. Because there's very little upside to playing the Trapfinder out there. And we could have, if they had, you know, if we played the Altar and they'd countered it, that would have kind of sucked. Okay, the Creativity for the Belcher. So now we need to draw Assassin's Trophy or Trapfinder. I mean, Iteration can find both of those cards, but the chances of it finding it are pretty low, and we would rather have the mana available. Okay. So I mean, we potentially, yeah, I mean, we just punted this game by playing out the Trapfinder on turn 1. There is a chance they were holding on to an Offer You Can't Refuse to counter Ashnod's Altar, which would have slowed us down. You know, if we don't have the Ashnod's Altar, we can't combo off, so there's a chance that they would have potentially won anyway, but either way, we definitely just punted this one by playing out the Trapfinder on turn 1 and having it exiled. So yeah, opponent just activates the Charbelcher here. I'm going to make them do it in case, you know, there are some builds that run a single mountain, and there's always a chance that they could get unlucky with what the Charbelcher hits, but yeah, I mean, I feel like we probably could have won that, or probably should have won that if I'd not played the Trapfinder out. But like I said, you know, had they played carefully with an Offer You Can't Refuse to counter the Ashnod's Altar, we might not have got there, but yeah, either way, that was definitely a punt on my part. So this hand, it's close. I think we keep it. You know, I really want to have early discard spells. Definitely not going to make the same mistake of playing Trapfinder out again. But we don't have any interaction, so we're just hoping to race here, I think. We just got to hope they don't have a fast Ironcrag feat into Charbelcher to start. And we're really hoping, you know, we've got 2 Fables, so there's a good chance that Perilous Iteration hits Ashnod's Altar here. Oh, wow, it doesn't. Okay, I mean, that's kind of unlucky, I think. So we'll just play the Fable here that we would have to discard anyway. And I am a little bit concerned because we haven't hit any discard spells yet, but Fable does loot, which can hopefully help us hit a Thoughtseize or something, just to try and disrupt what they've got going on. Okay, so opponent has priority for something. Imagine that must be Spikefield Hazard, so I'm glad we didn't play out the Trapfinder early here. So I think we're basically just waiting to find the altar now. And then just combo off. Or try and find a Thoughtseize or an Inquisition just to slow them down a little bit. Okay, there's the Spikefield Cave. And another Trapfinder. Okay. So we're definitely going to pitch Traveller and probably a Fable here. Okay, there's the Ashnod's Altar. So we're going to go for the altar here. Now, we could get lucky. If we hit Traveller, I mean, I don't even know if it's that lucky because we have 3 Trapfinders. I think we're pretty likely to hit Traveller here. Going off with 4 mana. Okay, we did. Sweet. Going off with 4 mana is pretty good. You know, most of the time you're not going to brick unless you get very unlucky. Now, they could have a Spikefield Hazard for the Traveller here. But we can still combo off post combat by attacking with the 2/2. Okay, they do have the Spikefield Hazard, which is a little bit annoying. So we can use the 3 mana to put Gigantha into hand. We can attack in with the 2/2. Hi, it looks like they have another Spikefield Hazard. Unless they're in full control mode, they could just be in full control to represent another Spikefield Hazard, maybe. Oh, they got March of Reckless Joy, okay. So we could combo off post main phase, but that doesn't meaningfully do much, really. Like, I guess it makes, you know, we could build up a huge board to try and put them dead on board next turn. But yeah, maybe we could have gone off main phase 2, but I feel with 2 Trapfinders that doesn't really do that much. You know, even if they have another Spikefield Hazard, we can just get another Traveller off this second Trapfinder. Okay. And Arena's giving away they don't have priority. Oh, they do have priority for something here. I mean, with 2 Trapfinders, we should just be good to combo off. That was kind of concerning, though, because the way they played... Oh, wow, that was pretty unlucky. But yeah, the way they played with just playing a March makes me think they might have Ironcrag Feat and Charbelcher. And had they hit an untapped land off the March, they could have potentially gone off there. But, I mean, that's just me speculating. They might not have had that. And they would need to have exactly that to even stand a chance of winning this one, I think. So yeah, we should just be good unless we get incredibly unlucky here. So we're basically just looking for Headless Rider. I mean, we've got the second Traveller anyway. If we need additional mana or an additional card for something. Wow, we're getting pretty unlucky with the Spellbook, because that's quite a lot of 3s we've got so far. So yeah, we're basically just looking for Dominating Vampire to give this champion the Perished Haste, or Headless Rider to just ensure that we don't brick. Okay, Shipwreck Sifters is nice. Sack the Reflection. Well, I mean, it's not, you know, we're looking for Headless. We'd rather have Headless Rider or Dominating Vampire instead, but it's better than like a 3-drop that we've been hitting quite a lot of. So just play Traveller again. Wow, we're hitting so many 3s. If we brick on this, I'll be so gutted. Like, to be honest, the chances of us doing that are still pretty low, I think. You know, we're still comboing off with like 7... Oh no, with... okay, opponent just scoops it up. Sick, we got there, nice. I had a few suggestions to do a little recap at the end, so I'm just going to throw this in at the end of the video, talking about what I think of the deck overall and some strengths and weaknesses. So, I really like this evolution of the deck. I think having green for Assassin's Trophy is huge at not only killing enchantments, but dealing with problematic stuff like Khan the Great Creator, as well as just being a removal spell for situations where we need that as well. And I think Assemble the Team and Perilous Iteration really help improve the consistency of setting up the combo, finding Assassin's Trophy if you need outs for certain hate pieces. Now, the obvious weakness of running green is the mana base is a lot more painful, which makes, you know, matchups like Burn can be a little bit more difficult for that. Now, having said that, I have beat Burn in the 2 or 3 times I've played it. I know very small sample size, but the painful mana base is definitely an issue. Not being able to run Thoughtseize because of that makes you a bit more vulnerable to Khan the Great Creator and Goblin UR Belcher. Post-sideboard, that's less of an issue. And it also means you get to run less utility lands. And in general, you know, that alongside not running a Khan or a Flesh Gorger does mean you're kind of lacking a bit more in terms of a plan B, but I think the consistency with which you can set up the combo and you have discard spells to clear the way for the combo make this generally better. And if people start running Unmoored Ego or Necromancer style effects to capitalise on the lack of a plan B, we still have the one-off Croc set as a way to bypass that as well. So overall, I really like this version of the deck, and I think it's definitely the way I'm going to be playing it going forward. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Big up.